A hug is the single most information-dense physical interaction two people can have in a socially acceptable context. And most men have absolutely no idea what is being communicated to them inside of one, not because the information isn't there, it is there, in extraordinary detail, in the pressure of the arms, the duration of the hold, the placement of the hands, the direction of the pull. Every variable of a hug is carrying data that the nervous system generates involuntarily and that behavioral scientists have been studying and documenting for decades. And when she pulls you closer, when the hug that was already happening becomes tighter, when her arms draw instead of hold, when the distance between two people decreases by her deliberate action, something specific is being communicated that she will almost certainly never put into words. This video decodes exactly what that is. Let's start with a number that will permanently change how you think about hugging: 20 seconds. That is the threshold identified by research from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, led by Dr. Karen Grewen, at which point a hug transitions neurochemically from social greeting to genuine bonding experience. Below 20 seconds, the hug registers as warm and friendly. At and above 20 seconds, oxytocin, the neuropeptide associated with trust, attachment, and genuine emotional connection, releases in quantities large enough to measurably reduce cortisol levels, lower blood pressure, and produce a sustained feeling of safety and closeness that persists after the physical contact has ended. 20 seconds is longer than most people think when they're inside a hug. Most social hugs last between 2 and 5 seconds. The ones that last longer, the ones that neither person ends, where the releasing point keeps getting quietly extended, are operating in a completely different neurochemical territory. And the pull, the additional drawing in that happens within an already occurring hug, is the body's way of extending time in that territory without using words to say so. Here is what makes a hug scientifically remarkable as a communication channel. Unlike most forms of nonverbal communication, a hug requires both people to be simultaneously participating, which means every variable, duration, pressure, hand placement, whether she pulls or relaxes, whether she nuzzles or holds straight, is happening in real time, in both directions, and is being generated by the nervous system of someone who cannot entirely control what their body does when they feel something genuine. The hug is one of the least manageable forms of emotional expression available, and that is exactly why it tells the truth so consistently. There are 5 specific variables inside a hug that carry distinct documented meanings. And the pull, the one the title of this video references, is the variable that carries the most information of all 5. We will build toward it, but we need to understand the other 4 first, because they are the context that makes the pull readable. The placement of her hands within a hug is not accidental. It is not random. It is the nervous system expressing through the most natural and uncalculated movement available to it exactly what category this hug belongs in. There are essentially 4 hand positions in a hug, and they correspond to 4 distinct relational and emotional states. The first is the back pat, hands placed high on the upper back with a light rhythmic patting motion. Research on hug typology from the Haptics Laboratory at the University of Lille has consistently identified the back pat as a warmth with distance signal. It says, "I am glad you are here," while simultaneously maintaining a clear social boundary. The pat is a release valve. It is the hug's way of being warm without becoming intimate. The second position is the full back hold, both hands placed flat on the mid or upper back, holding without patting, no rhythm, just steady, warm pressure. This is a genuine comfort hug. It communicates care and emotional presence. It is the hug of someone who means the hold. The third position is the low back reach, one or both hands moving to the lower back or waist. This crosses from social warmth into physical intimacy territory almost immediately, and in Robin Dunbar's social touch research, the lower back falls consistently in the intimate partner permission category. A hand that moves to the lower back during a hug is communicating something categorically different from a hand that stays at the shoulders. And the fourth position, the one that carries the most weight, is the reach around the neck or into the hair at the back of the head. This hand placement requires the closest full body proximity of all four positions and places the hands in areas, the neck, the scalp, that the body's permission system reserves almost exclusively for the highest trust relationships. When her hands go there, the hug has moved into emotional territory that the nervous system marks as intimate. Watch where her hands go first, and then watch whether they stay there or move. Here is the specific dynamic that most people miss about hug duration. Both people are continuously deciding whether to end the hug. Every fraction of a second that passes, both nervous systems are running a quiet assessment. Is this the moment to release, or do I stay? The person who stays longer is the person for whom ending the hug feels like a loss. And when she is the one controlling the duration, when she is the one whose arms maintain the hold past the point where a social greeting would have naturally concluded, her nervous system is communicating that it is not ready to leave the space of the hug. Dr. Alberto Gallace, a neuroscientist whose research on social touch has been published across multiple peer-reviewed journals, has documented what he calls the release threshold, the point at which the nervous system signals that a social touch interaction has completed. For hugs, the release threshold is highly sensitive to emotional and relational state. People who are in genuine emotional connection with each other consistently show elevated release thresholds. They require significantly more time before the release signal generates. And people who are in states of genuine attraction or intimate desire show the highest release thresholds of all. When she is the last one who would have let go, when the hug has already passed the social endpoint and she is still holding, her nervous system has reported something her words haven't said. The body doesn't manufacture extended release thresholds for strategic purposes. It generates them in response to genuine internal states. The hug she doesn't end is the hug she didn't want to end, and those are very different things. In a hug that is purely social, warmth with distance, the backpat variety, both people typically stay relatively upright. The heads remain separate. The neck and face maintain their own space even while the arms are engaged. But in a hug where the emotional temperature is different, where genuine desire or deep attachment is operating, something happens with the head and neck that is almost entirely involuntary. The head moves. It turns or it drops or it tucks, finding the shoulder or neck of the other person in a movement that behavioral researchers call nuzzling, and that the nervous system generates as a direct expression of the desire for maximal closeness. This movement is documented in both human and animal behavior research as an attachment-seeking behavior. It is what the body does when it wants to be as close as possible to a specific person. And because it involves the face and neck, two of the most guarded social surfaces on the human body, the willingness to let the head drop or turn into the neck of another person is a significant permission signal. It is the body reducing, voluntarily, and without a verbal decision, the distance between the most protected areas of itself and the person being held. When she nuzzles, when her head turns into your neck or drops towards your shoulder in a way that isn't about finding a comfortable position, but about getting closer, the body is communicating something that the social mind is not managing. It is the nervous system moving toward what it wants. This next variable is perhaps the most overlooked signal in the entire hug, and it might be the most honest. When a hug moves into genuine emotional territory, when the nervous system has registered the contact as safe, intimate, and deeply welcome, the body does something completely automatic. It exhales. Not the ordinary exhale of breathing, a specific, audible, releasing exhale that accompanies the parasympathetic nervous system's shift into rest and connect mode. This exhale is the body physically releasing tension it was holding before the hug began. It is the muscles of the chest and shoulders and neck letting go of the chronic, low-level protective tension that most people carry through their social interactions, and it happens because the nervous system has received enough safety signal from the person in its arms to drop that tension. Dr. Stephen Porges, whose polyvagal theory has become foundational in understanding how the autonomic nervous system governs social engagement, describes this exhale as a direct output of the ventral vagal complex, the part of the nervous system responsible for genuine social safety and connection. It cannot be manufactured deliberately. It is generated by the nervous system when the conditions for genuine safety and connection are present. When she exhales in a hug, a real, releasing, audible exhale, she has just communicated that something in the space of that hug produced genuine safety, that her nervous system dropped its management, that the person she is holding has generated the specific neurological conditions required for that release. It lasts half a second. It sounds like nothing, and it means everything. Now we arrive at the variable the title of this video is about, and everything we covered before this point is what makes it readable. The pull, the additional drawing in that happens within a hug that is already occurring, is not the beginning of the hug's emotional content. It is the escalation of it. And understanding this is critical to understanding what the pull actually communicates. When she pulls you closer during a hug, her nervous system has already processed the initial contact and made an assessment. The hands have already placed themselves somewhere. The duration has already begun extending. The nuzzle may already have happened. The exhale may already have released. And then, in the middle of all of this, she pulls. The additional drawing in is the body's most active form of hug communication. It is not passive allowing the way most of the other variables are. It is initiated. Her arms engage more deliberately. The pressure increases. The distance that existed even within the hug, the space between two people even while they're already holding each other, decreases by her deliberate physical action. Research from the Touch Research Institute at the University of Miami on the mechanics of human embrace found that pressure during a hug correlates directly with the emotional intensity the nervous system is experiencing. Light pressure is social. Moderate sustained pressure is genuine warmth. And increased pressure, the kind produced by a deliberate pull, is the nervous system communicating that the current level of closeness is insufficient for what it's feeling. It wants more contact, more presence, more of whatever the hug is providing. The pull is the body saying, not yet. The body saying, stay. The body saying, in the language of pressure and arms and the deliberate closing of distance, something that the mouth almost never says in the same moment with the same honesty. Here is what makes the pull so significant beyond its immediate physical content. It requires her to actively choose to close distance, to decide, however briefly and however below conscious control, that the space between two people should be smaller. That pulling is worth doing even in the context of a hug where that choice will be noticed. She is making herself more vulnerable, pressing more fully into the contact, making the hold more definite, making her desire for continued closeness visible in her arms because the wanting has reached a level where the protective management of that vulnerability has been temporarily overridden. The pull is not a question, it is a statement. And it is one of the most honest statements the body can make, generated without deliberate intention, confirming what the interior of the person had already decided long before the arms moved. Here is what all 5 variables, the hand placement, the duration, the nuzzle, the exhale, and the pull, have in common. None of them are managed by the social mind with any real success. None of them are easily performed deliberately without the genuine internal state to back them up. All of them are generated by the nervous system in response to what it is actually experiencing. And all of them, when present together, when the hands go somewhere specific, the duration extends past the social endpoint. The head nuzzles in, the exhale releases, and the arms pull rather than hold, are communicating something that forms a complete and coherent message. She wanted to be there. She wanted you closer. She didn't want it to end. That message was not in her words. It was in the 20 seconds that became 40, in the hands that moved lower, in the exhale that released the tension she'd been carrying, in the pull that said not yet when every social convention said it was time to let go. She communicated everything, in the language the body speaks when it has stopped waiting for permission from the mind. Now you know how to listen. Before you go, what we just covered is about what she communicates through a hug. But there is a related and equally important conversation that takes this further into territory that most people never address directly. Because the hug is not the only place where allowed physical contact communicates everything. There are specific parts of the body, specific areas governed by the nervous system's highest trust permission architecture, where access, when granted, tells the same complete story that the pull in a hug tells, but with even more finality, even more definitiveness. Because those areas don't just reveal what she's feeling in the moment, they reveal that the decision at the deepest available level has already been made. The video on your screen right now covers exactly that. It is called If She Lets You Touch This Part of Her Body. She has already decided everything. It covers the specific body zones, mapped by Oxford University research, explained through neuroscience, grounded in cross-cultural findings, where allowed contact functions not as a signal, but as a declaration, where the body's permission architecture is so specific that access to those areas has a single, unambiguous meaning. The hug told you what she's feeling. That video tells you what she has already decided. And the difference between those two things is the difference between a moment and a conclusion. It is right there on your screen. Watch it now.